You're listening to KOUG Radio. Listen live online at kougradio.org.
Hello, my name is Thabiti Lewis, and I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at WSU Vancouver. I want to welcome you to this episode of Student Success Stories. The goal of the Student Success Stories podcast is communication. We want to hear about student success stories and giving voice to students. And its intent is to examine student success very broadly, speaking from academic experiences to sense of belonging, career development, general growth, and strategies of faculty development that contribute to and make that growth possible. Thus, we use this podcast to talk about how WSU Vancouver's efforts to ensure the success of students actually takes place. And two of our guests today play a pivotal role in student success stories that will be featured on this podcast. Today, our guests, Narek, Daniyelyan, and Bill Stahley, join me to talk about an aspect of our student career development efforts and professional development efforts with faculty and career development with students that's intended to, really enhance and formalize experiential learning on campus and internship opportunities. Narek is the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Strategic Partnerships, and Bill Stahley is our Employer Engagement Coordinator working out of our Engage Learning and Career Action Center that is better known as ELCA. So Bill and Narek, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you for having us.
So Bill and Narek, I'd like each of you to begin this conversation to just talk a little bit about your role here at WSU and how you came to it and how your job impacts students' success and student success within the components of, career, being students graduating with career development or being career ready. So Narek, do you want to start? And then Bill, you can talk about yourself and this as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. Excited to be here. So I am, like Thabiti said, the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Strategic Partnerships. And so I think if you just hear that, it just feels like a made-up title, which in many ways it is. But really my role centers around developing and maintaining mutually beneficial partnerships that provide opportunities for both WSU and add value to the community partners that we work with. And so I lead corporate engagement. So that's partnerships with large companies, corporations, business engagement with kind of the small, medium-sized businesses. I also lead community engagement. So those are the partnerships with nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations, non-governmental organizations, and our state and local elected officials. And so there's a lot of opportunity in our community, and many of our community partners really want to engage with WSU. And so my role is really to be that liaison, to be the conduit between WSU and our external partners and stakeholders. And really, I do my work from the lens of student success. So how do we develop partnerships? How do we bring partnerships that whether directly or indirectly are going to have an impact on our students? And the one thing that I wanted to kind of frame up before even going any further is I think most people, especially in academia, when you talk about student success, it's viewed in this kind of bubble of the 4 years, the 2 years, the 5 years that a student is within that academic institution. My lens is much broader than that. So my lens of student success is from the very moment that student enters into our institution and beyond for the rest of their life. So a student's success in my mind is someone who graduated 20 years ago and is running, a successful company. A student success story could be someone who graduated from WSU and is now a donor to WSU. But it could also be the student who transferred here from a community college without a whole lot of direction and successfully graduated and made it to completion of their degree. And so I think it's important to view student success from not just the context of what happens here at WSU, but what happens when our students leave here, and how do we create opportunities that are going to help them be as successful as possible? How do we create a base for our students so that they have the most opportunities once they leave us?
Thanks, Narek. Bill, how about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Bill Stahley, Employer Engagement Coordinator, as Dr. Lewis shared. I think my title, maybe it's not obvious, but as I think of it, that employer engagement piece, I think, is central to what I do. And what I mean by that is I'm thinking about how do I get students and alumni connected to employers in the community. So that engagement piece is all about like how do I help the talent, which is our students, connect with the employers in our community. And I think that can take on a number of forms. I think one of the main ways that we do that is by offering several career fairs throughout the year. We'll have nearly 40 different organizations on campus here to meet KOUGs, to talk about the opportunities for them to come in and contribute to their organizations, and to build the kind of connections that can lead to those opportunities. So that's one of the primary ways that it happens, but it also happens through me introducing students to individual employers. I want to make sure that our students have the relationships that they need to be able to get the opportunities that they want. And sometimes that is just by, you may not have the connection that you want or that you need out there in the professional world. And so I'm always thinking about who do I know, and who's somebody that I can introduce a student to, so that they can start having those conversations that will give them more information about the world of work and the way that they want to contribute in that world, and then also maybe that leads to a job opportunity through them or through some other person that they're able to connect them to. In terms of other ways, I expect that Narek may talk about this as well, but I play a pretty significant role in our Future Leaders Project internship program, where we try to create opportunities for students out in the community to start getting that experience and making those connections so that they can. I think the great thing about internships and experiences are that they can help you or help students confirm the fit of a direction that you might be headed. Or it might go the other direction, and after you've had that experience, you're like, you know what? Being an accountant is not what I thought it was. But I saw some things, or I saw some roles within this organization that look interesting, and I may want to pivot and head in that direction. So I think whether it confirms it or it sends you in a different direction, I think that it's a very valuable experience that helps move you in the direction that you want your career to go, but may not be the direction that you were initially headed. But I think, in addition to that, it gives students valuable experience that they can put on their resume, so that you're not just a degree or not just a GPA on your resume. You actually have some experience to confirm that you know what you're talking about, and that's work that you want to do. But it also kind of comes back to that employer engagement piece too. Like you're building these connections in the community that can lead to real opportunities. The statistic that I keep hearing over and over again is that 80% of jobs they estimate never get posted on the website or on a job board. So it's like, how do you tap into these jobs if they never get posted? And I think it's largely about these relationships that you're cultivating at the career fairs, through the internship experiences, through doing informational interviews, where you're building that social capital that's necessary to unlock these opportunities for you. So in my role, I really want to not just give students the opportunity to make these relationships, but to even teach them how to do it, to provide the connections when those connections exist for me. I sometimes think of myself as the imagine I'm your connected uncle, where they're like, oh, he knows some people. I definitely want to talk to him because he can introduce me to the right kind of folks. So I could definitely do that, but I can also teach you how to meet the right kind of folks too, which is I teach a class every semester, University 301, and it's largely about helping students to build social capital. So I teach you how to do it. I require you to do it to pass the class. And then you come back and you present on your experience doing it. And so what I'm hoping, and as you know, thinking about what Narek was saying about student success, like I want you to be headed in the right direction and have the right tools in place so that you can make those connections to the professional work that you want to do. But I also want you to be equipped beyond that, because you're going to have to pivot a number of times during your professional journey. So I want you to have the tools in place so that as you encounter barriers or challenges in the future, as you want to advance in your career, that you have the tools in place to continue to build that social capital so that you can open up the opportunities that you want after you graduate and long into the future.
So Bill, just pivoting on the social capital and Narek, could you talk a little bit about if Bill is the uncle that's connected, what's your role in finding the aunts, uncles, friends that maybe helps make a program like FL Future Leaders Project work, and how are you collaborating with the efforts that Bill is involved?
Oh, are you asking me? Yeah. So that's a great question. So a little anecdote. Bill makes the joke about being the connected uncle, and you know, as funny as that is, in reality, it's a real thing, you know. And we hear that old cliche, like it's all about who you know. Previous to being in this role at WSU Vancouver, I was director of strategic initiatives at Workforce Southwest Washington, which is a regional, publicly funded workforce development board that works with businesses to identify what their skills gaps are, and then works with service providers to develop programs and trainings that'll help get people trained up so that they can enter into those jobs. And one of the things that we noticed to be true was that you can train the best welder in the entire world. Like, you can put together that program and you can make that person be the most skilled and best welder in the world. But if you send them to a job interview where they're interviewing against the person whose uncle owns the welding shop, they're probably not going to get the job. And it's kind of a tough reality, but that is the reality that we live in. And so, thinking about our student population, thinking about the fact that 45% of our students are first generation college students, 33% of our students identify as students of color. We're talking about students that have historically not had access to social capital, that historically have not had, people in the family or connections that are going to get them the opportunities to get a degree and then be offered a job without, going through the application process and whatnot. And so a lot of what Bill is talking about when he refers to social capital is really WSU as an institution taking on that role of creating opportunities for all of our students to be as well connected as possible when they exit into the workforce. And so the Future Leaders Project is just one of those initiatives that was designed with social capital in mind. And I've heard our Chancellor Mel Netzhammer refer to it as a C-suite internship program, which I really like. I like that terminology because part of what businesses sign up for by interning a student is that they sign up saying, yes, we're going to give this person access to C-suite level individuals. So the CEO, the CFO, like director level people within that company and within that organization. And so it's not just, hey, you're going to go get this experience on, how to use a copy machine and how to craft an email and send it to a large group of people, but it's really around, like, you're going to be integrated into this company or this organization. You're going to have access to the CEO of this company. We're going to invite you to, board meetings and whatnot. And so it really is around building that social capital with the business and community leaders in our region. And then the other piece is that 90% of our graduates remain in Southwest Washington and the greater Portland metro area. And so we're not, because we're a commuter campus, we're not WSU Pullman, where most of the students that graduate from WSU Pullman, leave and don't live in WSU Pullman. Most of our students actually live and work here. And so it's in our best interest to, set up our students so they can be the leaders of our community and our businesses 10, 15 years down the road. And that's really what the Future Leaders Project is doing. And my role with that is really just, maintaining and managing the relationships with our two partners. So Workforce Southwest Washington and the Columbia River Economic Development Council. Those two partners are two of our most important and biggest partners right now, and they help with the business engagement and like business recruitment piece of that program. And so I actually started working with that program while I was still at Workforce Southwest Washington. I was the manager for that program, and since coming on board, really it's Bill that leads it for our campus, and I support as much as possible with just getting community partners to the table and making sure that our relationship with Columbia River Economic Development Council and Workforce Southwest Washington are good and thriving.
So on average, how many internships this Future Leaders Project are available each year? How long is it? What does it pay? Is there an application? When does that happen? I'm really curious about that. And then quickly, just if you could lay that out, I would like to touch on a couple other issues around this career and student success.
Yeah, I would say it's a growing program. Each year, we've added additional folks to it. This current summer, we have 15 students placed with organizations throughout the area. It is a paid internship where right now our partners have agreed to pay at least $18 an hour for these internship opportunities, with the expectation that they would work on average of 20 hours a week over a 10-week period of time. So it is a 200-hour internship that students are committed to. And our hope is that, even though it's 15 this summer, we want to continue to grow the program and continue to develop new partnerships and create more opportunities for students to do it. And with some of our partner organizations, they've even secured some outside funding that will increase our ability to do that into the future. So So I think the Future Leaders Project is a great opportunity for students. I think the one thing though is that they just have to be willing to do an internship, and I think sometimes to say yes to an opportunity like that, I think even the word internship can be kind of scary. But I think if we can get students to say, yeah, I'm interested enough to apply and explore it, I think that will give us the ability to continue to expand the program so that more students can benefit from it, and so that our larger community can benefit as our KOUGs go out into the community and have these opportunities.
And can I just add real quick, Thabiti, because you asked, kind of my role with that particular program. So two very specific things that I think are important to note are we, as Southwest Washington, we are a part of the Greater Portland Economic Development District. So these are federally designated economic development districts that are required to have 5-10-year economic development plans. So with this particular program, as the WSU person who was on that board, on the executive board for that economic development district, we actually advocated and added Future Leaders Project as an economic development strategy for the Greater Portland metro area. We're one of the only Southwest Washington strategies that made it on that list. So really proud of that. And then we also worked with WSW, Workforce Southwest Washington, and advocated to have Future Leaders Project, or just experiential learning written into legislation that was enacted by Senator Cantwell. And so some of the outside resources that Bill talked about, we're actually going to be receiving. We're in the process of applying to receive those funds. We're going to be receiving some funding from the Department of Labor as a result of those advocacy efforts with our state and actually with our federal elected officials.
That's great. So I just want to remind our listeners that Bill, you work in the engaged community learning action center, and that space is focused in on making certain that students are successful career-wise from the moment that they arrive and beyond. And Narek, your efforts are also certainly tied to Goal 5, but you overlap with academic affairs and Goal 2 of the strategic plan, which is all about improving campus resources to ensure that students graduate career ready. And so, the efforts that you're both engaged in are really about actualized strategies such as developing resources and even coordinating for our on-campus and off-campus student employment. And I think also facilitating co-curricular and curricular development programs for academic departments that may not have enough career support. And then we also, strategy is creating faculty role responsibility to develop and promote undergraduate research. And so, Bill, and Narek, so Bill, I'd like you to just talk about, and Narek, how ways in which your efforts are playing a role in facilitating co-curricular and curricular career development programs. And then also maybe Narek leaning into how you're working together with academic affairs to create faculty, helping to enhance the development of faculty responsibility to develop and promote undergraduate research, but also experiential learning. So, so Narek, how about if you start, and then Bill, you can talk about some of your efforts along those lines as well. Oh, and before you speak, Narek is muted.
Narek I saw that. Sorry about that.
That's okay. But before you speak, I just want to add, Narek is a WSUV graduate. And if we talk about career development and student success, right, because we see student success as holistic. It is what you do in the classroom that prepares you to have those sort of, 8 skills that employers are looking for, from professionalism to leadership to being able to work in teams, et cetera. But also some experiential components within the classroom and also career development. And so here, Narek is a WSU grad and working, ironically, in a role that's promoting the very thing that we're talking about. So I think it's really nice that you're a manifestation of what this conversation is talking about today. And Kylie, our KOUG radio manager, will be as well, because the work that she's doing from student leadership to KOUG radio management is developing those very skills that employers want. But anyway, that's just an aside. So Nick, why don't you chat a little bit about that? Yeah.
Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, I'm a proud KOUG. Actually 2 times over. So I got my bachelor's degree in human development. And then I started working for Clark College right after I graduated. It was the Monday after I graduated, actually, with my bachelor's, I started working. And then I started taking evening classes and enrolled in the master's program the following fall, and so I got my master's degree in public affairs from WSU Vancouver. So really proud of being a WSU and WSU Vancouver alum. And I think, you know, and I'll kind of talk about this and pick up on your question, Thabiti, but one of the biggest I think drivers of my education and helping me persist and complete my degree was the fact that I was engaged on campus, and I felt like I had opportunities to connect with people beyond, you know, what you think about as like just sitting in a traditional classroom. And in fact, I joke about this all the time. Like on paper, I was a really average student. You know, I got some A's, mostly B's, and some C's, you know, and it was the experiences outside of the classroom that really shaped who I was as a student and kind of helped map that career trajectory for me. So I was a transfer student, and I went to Clark College before I started as a student at WSU. I got my associate's degree. While I was at Clark, I was a student ambassador. So I worked in the admissions office as a student ambassador. And that program, just like meeting people, making connections, really helped me finish my associate's degree. And then when I transferred to WSU, my first year here, I was like, I'm not going to get involved with anything because I really want to focus on academics, and I don't want any distractions. And that was really short-lived because I realized the 2 and 2 go together. Like I wasn't able to like just hunker down and be just academics focused without having those social interactions, those social connections. And so I joined the executive team on ASWSUV. I was the director of leadership development. And then it took me 3 years to graduate from WSU after I transferred here. So my 3rd year here, I was elected student body vice president, and it was a really great experience because I was able to get connected both on campus and off campus. And when I graduated, my supervisor, who was my supervisor when I was a student ambassador at Clark, is the one who offered me a job. And so it's just it's such a prime example of creating social capital and how the opportunities at, you know, your institution, at your college can lead to careers once you graduate. And so yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that, Thabiti, because I think it is it's a really great example of why I do the work that I do. I mean, I really truly believe in it because I've seen it transform. Like it's transformed my life, and it's transformed the lives of so many other people. And so then to kind of pick back up on one of your questions was around co-curricular activities and then partnering with with other departments such as academic affairs. And so one of the initiatives that I've been working on with academic affairs, in fact, Thabiti is my partner in crime, is the Community Engaged Scholars Initiative. So this is an initiative that is a part of our Goal 5 of our strategic plan, and it is designed to help increase.
And Goal 2 of our strategic plan around career development.
That's right. So Goal 5 and Goal 2. I think everything's a part of Goal 2, because Goal 2 is student success. So everything we do, eventually funnels into Goal 2. And so sometimes I forget to mention that, but the VD always reminds me that we got to mention it, even though it sometimes doesn't need to be said, but it does need to be said. So the Community Engaged Scholars Program is the goal is to increase the number of courses that we offer at WSU that have a service learning component embedded in the course. And so, Thabiti likes to remind me that a lot of our faculty members and departments have already been doing this for a long time. And so part of this initiative is formalizing some of those existing courses that we already have that have a community engagement component, and formalizing it and then streamlining it as well. And so we're working with the Center for Civic Engagement at WSU Pullman, and we this last year recruited a cohort of 5 faculty members from various disciplines across the WSU Vancouver campus. They all went through a fellowship program that helped them streamline and learn about the best practices as it relates to service learning and community engagement. And throughout the next academic year, so in fall and spring, fall of 23 and spring of 2024, they'll be working on incorporating a service learning activity or component into one of their courses that they teach. And my role in that will be to help, identify some of those new community partners that are open and willing to providing those opportunities, but also working with Thabiti and with his leadership in academic affairs to make sure that our faculty feel supported and feel like they have the tools and resources they need to implement that initiative successfully. And this is year one of a multi-year initiative, and so we hope to have more faculty members next year that will go through the program, and ideally in 3 to 5 years we have 20 to 30 faculty members that have new service learning opportunities in their courses.
So growth is our focus. Thank you, Narek. That's really wonderful. And it dovetails right back into the career and segue to, we're getting them developed in their classes. And Bill, outside the classes, what kind of things are you doing that bolsters that next?
Well, I think that service learning piece is so huge. I mean, I think anything where it's like experiential, sometimes the word service learning, it's like, what do you mean by that? And I think it's real world experience, kind of applying knowledge and seeing how that goes, working as a team. And, and oftentimes like the service learning or even getting an internship or doing some of the informational interviews that I really encourage students to do, like, it sounds like extra, and it's like, I just don't have time for this, or it's hard to make this a priority. And kind of going back to what Narek was talking about on his own personal journey, that it was largely the stuff outside of the classroom that was helping to put these career pieces together. And so I think any of those things, whether it's the service learning, or it's going out and getting an internship, or even just doing the informational interviews, it can just be such a valuable way of making that connection. It's kind of like that bridge from your academic experience to your career. And I think sometimes people or students are like, I'm just so focused on my school right now that I just can't make space for this stuff. And I see these things as being really an investment in your future success as a professional. That, you know, I think the students that do make time for it really kind of reap the benefits of it. Even, you know, Narek talking about having a job right after he graduated. You know, I think most students would kill for the to be able to say that hey, I'm at the graduation celebration this weekend, and now I've got a job on Monday. They're like, oh my goodness, you know, I don't know what I'm doing, or even what kind of jobs to apply for. But I really want to see students pursuing more of these internship opportunities. I think for most majors don't require students to do internships, but most majors will allow students to use internships as credits towards their degree. So it's definitely worth seeking and worth talking to your academic advisor about, and seeing how you can integrate it in to the experience, and seeing how those credits would count. I work with partners across campus. I know Aaron Lieberman is one of the point people over in the College of Arts and Sciences. Stephanie Leeper in the College of Business is somebody else that I work with regarding internships. Mary Beth Bolger, if you are a computer science or engineering student, is a good person to contact. Not that you have to remember these names. You can always get in touch with me and be like, hey, who did you mention, or how do I get started in terms of exploring this internship, so that I could potentially receive academic credit towards it. So I'm always looking to see how I can get students connected to these internship opportunities, and as employers contact me as well, exploring internships. I'm connecting them with academic departments so that that information can kind of trickle down, and students can hear about it. I also talk to because sometimes employers will contact me and they're like, now internships, we don't have to pay them, right? Because students could potentially just get credit for it. And I said, well, yeah, technically that's true, but if you just advertise it as, volunteer, you're probably not going to get many applicants for it. So I'm often advocating with employers that they need to invest in these opportunities, so that students have the freedom to make it a priority, where they're like, okay, I know that this is a good experience, but I also have some real world challenges of paying the bills that I'm trying to solve, and this having a paycheck that's connected to this experience makes it easier for me to say yes, or maybe even makes it easier to quit a part-time job that maybe isn't moving them in the direction that they want their career to go, to make space for an internship that has more relevant experience, where they can kind of test and see that that this is a good fit, or maybe they learn through that internship experience that they need a different internship experience the following semester, where they can test another hypothesis in terms of another direction that they might go. So those are some of the thoughts I have around that. But Thabiti, if there are any gaps there that you want me to address, just let me know.
No, Bill, that's great. Actually, as you were talking, you actually stimulated, and as we wrap up, a great point came to my mind, which is, as you're both talking, people talk about they don't see the value, or not people. There's this myth around how valuable is a higher education. And there is a connection between, what we're learning, students are learning in the classrooms and experiences, and how what we're doing manifests in experiential opportunities, as well as cultivating skills that are necessary for students when they leave these spaces. I like to think of university experience or education as, what we're offering is a holistic education for our students. And so that's just words, holistic. But what you've both been talking about today are filling in the color of what that holistic education looks like. How do we move toward creating internship opportunities? How do I communicate with people? What kind of things is our institution doing to make connections within the community that connects to what students are doing in the classroom? And that we have Narek, who's a WSU grad, who manifests that. And again, I'm going to say Kylie and other students who have student jobs on campus are learning skills that are actually applicable. So I'm saying all that because I feel that often it's very easy for people to see students who are majoring in engineering or business or certain fields where it's really clear. But that holistic importance of the College of Arts and Science and liberal arts education, I think many institutions are struggling with it. I think we're doing a good job, and we're really focused on building it out more and making our students aware of, and our faculty of, hey, what you're doing. Let's make sure we're connecting the dots for students beyond the classroom space, right? And so we understand it, we're targeting it, and the work that you're both doing is a manifestation of how we're moving that along. So yeah, I just would, if you had a wish, or if you could both just talk about, hey, in the next, and Narek, you did it a little bit, but if there's something like in the next 2 or 3 years, here's what we want to see happen as we're going to finish out this strategic plan. This is what we want to make. This is what we imagine happening for our students. I mean, I know in our strategic plan, our metric is, as we're interviewing graduating seniors and looking at undergraduate placement surveys, we'll be saying, okay, how are we really doing? But I know my thing is that they walk away with a kind of design thinking, understand the holistic nature of the education that they're receiving, that if I'm working for KOUG Radio, or if I'm vice president of ASWV, if I'm taking a geography class, anthropology, psychology, all those courses are an additive to the holistic being that's prepared to create or take on different kind of opportunities and communicate to people to make them understand, hey, I'm an opportunity for you, or here's something that we can create. And everyone who works with me knows, if you want to come up with an idea, I'm your man, right? We want our students to have that kind of energy and thrust. So, I mean, that's me, Associate Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs. And so I'm talking to the two of you as, partners in this venture of, our student success stories from this sort of career development component. If you had your druthers, what would you like to, see us manifest in the next 2 or 3 years?
I'm happy to start us off. So first of all, nothing frustrates me more than the narrative around higher education right now, because I think what we're seeing on, both on social media and mainstream media is very extreme examples of somebody who went to college, got into crippling debt, and now can't afford to pay for it. And while those situations are very real and they're very unfortunate, they are not the norm by any means.
Narek, half of our students graduate with zero.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think it's the narrative that I hear is unfortunate, and it's unwarranted, and I think it has some real implications for the future in terms of, we've already seen our enrollment rates decline. We've seen that enrollment rates amongst men have been declining for years now, and I think that there are some real implications there when we look at that long term. I think and again, I believe in this. That's why I'm in this role. I believe that a college education is still the most efficient and effective way to achieving economic mobility. I think that by going to college and investing in yourself, that's the single greatest investment you can make in your long-term economic success. And so, I just wanted to address that point, Thabiti, because I hear it, and I hear it with our partners too. I hear it in circles around, well, college isn't for everyone. And it's almost said in a way that like we have too many students enrolling in college and we don't know what to do with them. Well, that's not true. The numbers tell us that only 30% or so of high school graduates actually enroll in post-secondary institutions. So yeah, we know college isn't for everyone. It's never been for everyone, but learning is for everyone. I think being able to finish your high school degree and continue on a learning pathway, that is for everyone, whether it's at a 4-year institution, a 2-year institution, a trade school, whatever it might be. And so I just want to throw that out there. And then in terms of your question around, degree pathways, I think, and this feeds into that narrative too, because I think the mainstream idea of a higher education really looks at careers in a very linear way. So, I'm going to go to business school and I'm going to be a business person. I'm going to go to medical school and I'm going to be a medical professional. I'm going to go to law school and I'm going to work in law or be an engineer or a computer scientist. It doesn't take into account the hundreds and thousands of other jobs that are out there, and it doesn't take into account the kind of the other skills that you need besides the hard technical skills in any given field in order to be successful in that field. And so, I was a human development major, very social scientist at heart, and I learned critical thinking skills and I learned how to work with people. I had no idea, the jobs that I've had, I never knew that they existed while I was a student. And for a lot of students, that is the case. I think it's actually the minority of students who go into those professional fields like engineering or computer science or medicine where they know what their job is going to be, but I argue that most people don't know what their job is going to be. And for a lot of folks, their job my job didn't exist. There was no assistant vice chancellor for strategic partnerships when I was a student here. In fact, this job has only existed for about 3 or 4 years. And so I do think that it's incumbent on us to do that holistic experience or that holistic education where we're preparing students academically in the classroom, but we're preparing them to be successful in a variety of different fields. And most employers, that's why I love experiential learning, because you can be a business student and go intern at a nonprofit organization and realize that they have business people, like they have finance people that work there. They have people that work in procurement and do like business to business partnership and contract agreements. And you can see how what you're learning here translates into the real world. Or you could be an English major and have no idea what you want to do. And you can go intern for, a company and realize, hey, this company is developing something that they need to communicate to their customers. And I can, by the skills that I've gotten at WSU, I can really add value by helping them communicate this to their customers in a better way. And so yeah, I'll stop there and let Bill chime in. But
yeah, we make those students over time aware of the holistic nature of the education and widen their lens and their design thinking. That's great. And Bill, how about you?
That was great stuff that you shared there, Narek. I couldn't agree more. And when you look at what employers are looking for, it lines up perfectly with what is happening here at the university in terms of the skills that students are able to cultivate and to develop. So I think that this is a great place for a lot of folks to continue to kind of take that step towards having a career. I think in terms of what I want for students is to not settle for being for writing good papers or taking good tests. I hope that they'll take it that next step, like you heard Narek talk about, or even Kylie, as you're doing this on-campus job. It's like you're testing, you've got this design about what you think you might want your life to look like, and now you're trying things out and developing new skills and succeeding and failing and making adjustments and going from there, which is exactly what I want folks to do. Like, I think about the lab science classes where you listen to lecture and then you go into the lab and you try these things out and you see how it goes. That's really, like, I think that's why folks are questioning the value of higher education, because students aren't taking that step, or maybe they're not being required to take that step to test it out. And testing it out can look like getting an on-campus job. It can look like getting an internship, or even doing an informational interview, even coming to the career fair just to learn about the employers in the community and what kind of jobs they hire for. I think sometimes students won't come because they'll look at the list and go, I don't recognize these folks, so I'm not going to come. And it's like, that's why you come, is to have this opportunity to connect with them and to learn how you might fit in and contribute. Because at the end of the day, I really want students to be heading in a direction where, 6 months after they graduate, they're wondering whether they got value out of their degree. And I think the way you get value is by making those connections, by kind of experimenting, testing things out, see what goes well, see what's not working, and then making adjustments. Because I think to have a fulfilling career, you're going to need that throughout the course of that 30 or 40-year career. So I want to see more students getting engaged outside of the classroom to start making those connections, so that they kind of head out in a good direction and develop those skills that they'll continue to use throughout their lifetime.
Well, that's perfect ending point there, Bill. Narek, thank you so much. That concludes this segment around student success stories. That this segment talks about how do we actually create the mechanisms that get us to success. And today's focus, this segment's focus, is the resources at our students' disposal that ensure that they graduate career ready, from experiential to internship development and skill development, within the curricular and co-curricular. My name is Thabiti Lewis. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, and we hope you enjoyed this segment of Student Success Stories. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. That was fun. Thank you,
Great.
Kylie.
Thanks for putting it together.
Yeah, thank you guys
job.
for coming in. Yeah,
Yeah.
woo!
Good job,
All right.
gentlemen. Good job.